Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to a new edition of the Urban Sentinel live show. Y'all got to excuse me tonight. I tell you, allergies are rampant right now with the pollen and everything, and just taking my voice away. I'm glad to be here with you all on another Tuesday night to sit down and jibber jabby for a little while. Tonight, I've got my associate editor with me tonight. She stepped out into the literary world with her first book. I believe it's her first book. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. But I've got Miss Lashika Board with me tonight. And she's going to talk about her new book, 130 Ways Why a Man Cheats. Now, basically, 20 reasons on why a man cheats. Am I correct, Lashika?
You are. This is my first book. It's called Top 20 Reasons Why Men Cheat. It's available on Amazon, and the Kindle version is available as well.
Okay, well, I'm glad to have you on. Glad to have you on here tonight. Try to give you a little boost in your sales and everything. So,
Thank you.
Before we get started, like I said to the viewers, Lashika is my associate editor, and she does a great job for me, helping me out. We're just trying to make it happen out here in the literary world, the magazine world, publication world. We're just trying to do it. Lashika, tell everybody what made you decide you wanted to become a writer.
When I was a little girl, I always liked to journal. My mom had bought me my first diary when I was probably about 11 or 12, just to write down thoughts. And I started journaling then. And I would always journal, even as an adult. I just continued to journal. And then after that, I was in the healthcare field for a long time, but I started working part-time for a radio station. And when I worked for the radio station, I started writing commercials for them. I started writing commercials for just different businesses that would advertise with the radio station. And I really loved to just write the commercials. I guess I was in awe because a lot of my clients really, they loved the commercials that I would write. And then some of them would want me to do the voiceovers, and then some of them would want me to write them, but they would want to do the voice, the voices themselves. They would want to read the commercial. So I really started off like the professional writing when I wrote for the radio station in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Okay, good. And do you still have those journals you wrote? You created when you were a kid?
No, I wish I did though. I wish I did. I know, like moving around, and sometimes things would get, being a teenager would get lost. So I don't have them. I wish I did, because I want to go back and see, because I would write in it every day. At one point, I wrote in a journal every single day. I just wish I could go back and look and see, what I was doing on certain days and how I thought back then, but I don't have them. The last ones I have probably were when I was, let's see, I have ones from when I was probably in my late 20s. That's probably the last journals that I still have.
Well, I bet that'd be pretty cool to go back and look at your journals that you had when you were a kid, and now looking at what you've just done. I think that'd be pretty cool to see what you were thinking.
It would be. It definitely would be. I think that would be a cool thing. Even when I go back to look at the journals that I wrote when I was in my late 20s, it's even, surprisingly, it surprises me because I went through like certain things, and, I wrote that stuff down, and I could see how far I've come, since even then.
Okay, good. Okay, now let's get down to this new book. What made you write this book you just have written and published and is now out there for sale? Tell me about it. Did you hear me, Lashika? Lashika,
Okay.
can you?
So, through cheating in my previous marriage.
Hmm.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yes.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I went through cheating in my previous marriage. And then I know a few females that went through the same thing. So sometimes we would talk about it and, talk about our feelings and talk about, what's happened in past relationships and things like that. So when we would just sit around and talk about it, a lot of people were talking about it, like online. I think Instagram, and that's all they would talk about was why men are cheating and, things like that. So I thought it would be an interesting topic.
Okay. You're going in and out a little bit, but I think I got the gist of what you were saying. You just came across a group of ladies and other people had been through the same situation
Okay.
you have been
Can you
through,
hear
and you
me,
decided
Reggie?
to write the book. Yes, I can hear you. I was just saying you going in and out a little bit, but we got the
Okay.
gist of what you were saying. Basically, you just
Okay.
got with a bunch of people and they were going through the same thing that you had been through and
Yeah,
everything.
a lot of them were, and I've seen it a lot online as well. It was
Hmm.
just like a topic of discussion between women. And I decided to survey different types of men because I worked with a lot of different men. In the radio field, I had to, work with a lot of different men in different fields because I was in advertising.
Hmm.
And I met a lot of different people. So I just decided to, just do a survey. And I surveyed different people from different backgrounds, different walks of life. I just surveyed them and asked them. A lot of people would ask me, I can, what would the men say? How were they so truthful to me and things like that? Like once they started reading the book, and you would be surprised. A lot of men wanted to talk about it. They wanted to tell their stories, like why they cheated, and some were still cheating. So they would talk to me because they didn't know me and they knew that I couldn't use their names and things like
Hmm.
that. So everything was anonymous. So they didn't have a problem. The ones that I see that had the problem that I would ask was people that I grew up with, like some guys that I grew up with. They were like, "We'll buy the book, but no, I'm not answering those questions. I'm not
Hmm.
answering your questions." So
Scared.
yeah, so it was surprising. Strangers were ready to tell me, but then people that I knew were kind of skeptical.
Hmm.
Yeah.
They probably were scared they would be recognized if they gave
Yeah,
out their
maybe.
information. Yeah. Now, why you didn't title, why you didn't title the book
Mhm.
20 reasons on why men and women cheat.
Well, I'm this is just focusing on the men right now, but the women will
Hmm.
be in the hot seat soon.
Hmm.
I'm going
Hmm.
to have another book about why women cheat as well. That's what they want. That's what the people want. They want a book about why women cheat. So I'm definitely going to work on that one as well. So
Well,
we'll focus more on that. I'm not going to
they'll,
discriminate.
they'll probably be that'll probably be your bestseller there.
Oh no.
Hmm.
Oh no.
Cause
I,
I'll be.
I was actually on Amazon's uh, um, hot. I was number one on book was out.
Oh, okay. Now, how many books do you have to sell to be number one in a particular category? Can you hear me, Lashika?
She might have to go in and come back out because it seems like she's freezing. I was watching and listening. There was definitely some good commentary and hearing what about this fascinating book and all along those lines. But know that the last time you asked, she was going in and out and all along those lines. I don't know if she might have to go back in and out and see if we get her back on regular
Can you
version
hear me
without.
now? I think it went out a little bit.
It
Yeah,
did.
you freezing. Look, Lashika, can you go out and come back in completely?
I just wrote it in the chat too, but hopefully she. Yeah, you may have to go back out and in and all along those lines because it is a fascinating topic. Oh, there she goes and everything. But it is a fascinating topic. Hopefully she'll come back in and we can learn more about this fascinating book and everything like that because it is a fascinating topic. And I'm sure that people have different reasons for cheating. And then there are different definitions of cheating and everything like that because I've had conversations with friends of mine and one thing that's very popular right now is Reggie is online dating and online relationships and things like that. So there's even that whole notion of what do you call it, virtual relationships and everything like that. And some people say that if it's virtual, it's not actually cheating, whereas other people say that if you are having your heart out there and you are talking, then that is another form of cheating and all along those lines. So it'll be interesting if Lashika comes back, what she found out about that and everything like that. So I see she's coming back in and everything. So we'll see if we can get her back on and her thoughts around that and all along those lines.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting question. Miss Boyd, how you doing? Let's see if you're coming in strong again and everything like that. So definitely things like the signal might be a little bit stronger. But how you doing, Miss Boyd, and everything? And definitely, as I was telling Reggie, it sounds like a very fascinating book. But when you were talking to people, what was their thoughts around virtual relationships and everything like that? Because like I was telling Reggie, I know some people that think that that is a form of cheating, and other people that are like, that's just people using their imaginations and they're not actually physically engaged. So what was the whole notion of the thought of mental cheating is what some people call it versus physical cheating and all along those lines. And then you touch on that in the book because some people be like, it's a virtual relationship. I didn't really talk to the person. I didn't actually get physical with them. So what was your thoughts around that? And did that come up in the book?
It did definitely come up in the book. Like social media and things like that. Most of the guys were saying that they didn't think that it was cheating, but they were cheating because they were still, in contact with these people virtually,
Yeah, yeah. The signal's still coming in kind of
even
breaking.
though they may not have
Yeah, she just dropped out and everything like that. So
Yeah. I'll tell you.
play with a better signal or something like that. But what's your take on that? Because I couldn't really hear her all that well. But it sounds like some people are thinking that that's you're emotionally connected to the person and you're still there, whether you're physically involved or not. So, like I said, hopefully she'll get to some place with a better signal. We can find out what the thoughts were from the book and everything. But Reggie, what's your take on that notion? Because some people be like, I'm just having this conversation with this person. I'm flirting with them and everything like that. And, like I'll give an example. I know some people that have had work wives or work husbands and everything. And some people will say that that is a another form of cheating, whereas other cases, the people even know, meaning the spouses know about the other person's relationship and everything like that. I've got a coworker that we joke and all that time, but ironically, when her father died and everything, her and her husband brought by clothes that I somewhat inherited from her dad, and we never had any real relationship and really didn't have that much flirtation talk and everything like that. I definitely had a great deal of respect for her husband, but some people would be like, because he was an athlete, think he definitely played college ball, think he played at UNC, and he might have even played professionally and everything. But some people would be like that is a break of the relationship, even though there was no relationship that we had. We just talked and everything like that. And we didn't even talk sexual. We just were friends at a work environment, which is what a work wife or a work husband can be. But some people will be like, that's a form of cheating and everything like that. But I was just wondering, and hopefully we got Miss Boyd. You were breaking up, so I didn't really hear your answer around the notion of social media. So I don't know where you are in the room and if the signal is as strong or all on those lines, but we can try to get that answer about the social media as well.
I don't think she can hear you.
Yeah, I was wondering that myself because she still got that
Okay,
freezing.
I'll go ahead and start over.
Okay, please.
I do have a chapter
Yeah, Miss Boyd, I think it's because of where you are in the room, or I don't know if you got a different computer, if you want to come in on the phone or a different device, but it's still like very choppy. So like I said, I heard the beginning when you were first beginning at the show with Reggie, but it's definitely very choppy. So I don't know if you have another device, if you want to try to come in on something else, but it's definitely coming in overly choppy and everything like that. So I don't know if there's another part of the house or wherever you're at that just got a stronger signal, but it's definitely coming in incredibly choppy and everything like that. So I don't know if you want to have another either device or another place that you can come in and from, and then we can try to continue the interview. But it is coming in highly choppy.
Okay.
Can you come in on your phone?
Okay. Yeah, let me try my phone. I know we have a small storm here, so that might be
Oh,
the
okay.
issue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
let me see. Okay, I'll see if I can come in on my phone. But as far as social media goes, yeah, I do have a chapter in there about like Facebook, Instagram, DMs, private messages and things like that. And a lot of men looked at it like they were not cheating because they were not meeting up per se with the women. They were not meeting up with these people. So they didn't think that it was a problem. But they were still hiding it from their mates. They were hiding it from their girlfriends or their wives at home, thinking, and I'm asking them, if you don't think that it's cheating, then why would you have to hide it? And that was just my question behind the whole thing. But they still thought that, oh no, well, we're just conversing. We're not meeting up. I'm not meeting up with this person, but you're texting this person, good morning, beautiful, or what, the basic good morning text and things like that. So I did touch on that in the book because there's so much going on, with social media these days.
Yeah, but I think many people, both on the men's side and the ladies' side, probably look at it as a safe way to
Hmm.
be involved with someone, but not really be out there involved with them. Okay, because it's
Right.
you on the internet, so you might be
Hmm.
1,000 miles from that person, but you can
Right.
keep it safe by being on the internet and stuff. So that's
Exactly.
that makes a very interesting topic because as a human being, your feelings are still going to get caught up
Right.
because
Exactly. And
you
they
might,
will. They
yeah,
definitely will.
you might start off going once a week talking to that person or texting them.
Uh-huh. Hmm.
Then all of a sudden it's 2 days a week, 3 days a week because
Right.
feelings begin to get involved. So that's what happens, you know. So
Yes.
you
You're
could look
coming in a lot
Mhm.
stronger now and everything. I'm just going to let y'all know that. Just really quickly, Reggie, along those same lines, I had a quick question. Just on thinking about Miss Boyd, your thoughts around this. I'm imagining that finances is what caught a lot of people in that relationship. Because one thing that we know that happens in society is there is a very
Mhm.
popular notion. It's called catfishing. And a lot of people might be
Oh, yeah.
getting catfished and all along those lines, which means that they are then given money to that third party and everything. And then if they've got a wife or a girlfriend and everything, then they're sitting there going like, wait a minute, how come the $500
Mhm.
or the $1,000 or whatever is missing and all along those lines because they have been catfished and they have started to give gifts to these other folks, whatever that gift may be and everything. So I just wondered, did
Oh,
that come
yeah.
out in the book as well, where people were discovered because they were giving either physical or monetary gifts to the other party and everything like that. And then, of course, the primary party might have been like, wait a minute,
Mhm.
this is some money that we're supposed to have for the baby or some other kind of folks. And
Right.
then it disappears and
Oh, yeah.
everything like that. And then they're trying to figure out where the money's gone. So put it that way. So I just wondered, did catfishing come out in the whole conversation as well, where people might have got suckered into some other relationships?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It definitely came out because, and then what I put in the book, it was hush money.
Right.
You can use it either way. Like you can use it to get the person, or you can use it to keep their mouths shut.
Right.
Keep the person that they met a woman online and they don't want them to say anything to their significant other if it gets, a little bit too serious, or somebody, kind of throws out a threat. If the man if they feel like the man is not paying them enough attention, then I've seen money, they talked about how they've had to spend money to keep them quiet. So I see that, and that's not even including the gifts, like you were saying, the the stuff that they were buying in the beginning of the relationship. So if you're going to start with monitor, I've seen the people that that I survey. If you're going to start off with monetary gifts, you're going to end up paying out more than you ever thought you would have to. Not even just money, gifts is going to be, your life, your life, whatever you have going on, whether it's a wife or whether it's girlfriend, living girlfriend, it's going to cost you.
but what are you getting from an online relationship? Because you're not seeing the person, you're not touching the
Hmm.
person, so you're not having any physical interaction with that
Right.
person. So what are you getting?
Hmm.
Well, I
I
imagine
think.
it.
Hmm.
I'm sorry, Miss
No,
Boyd.
go
I'm
ahead.
just curious. I imagine that in some cases, because I've seen this in other relationships and everything, and I'm going to use a term that people are used before. I imagine that in some cases there's that blackmail that you're talking about, Miss Boyd, where there might be some
Right.
sexting going on, and then
Um.
the person will do some blackmail and basically be like, I
Oh
got
yeah.
those photographs or I've got those videos, and if you don't maintain this relationship with me, it'll go to your work environment or it'll go back to your wife or your spouse or even your family member. So I imagine
Hmm.
that there was probably some sexting blackmail going on as well. And I don't
Oh
know that,
yeah.
but I would guess so that that's something that you discovered in the book where some people got caught up in the midst of
Hmm.
things and were basically blackmailed because they had been sexting, which is basically sexual activities that are done through texting and everything like that.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. There was a lot of that going on. A lot of the virtual stuff, the sexting, things like that, that they would get caught up in that sense too. But there was a lot of people that would, how can I put this without saying too much? um as far as, okay, so some of the men had, they were a little more wealthy, okay,
Mhm.
and the wealthy men compared to the not so wealthy men, you had the wealthier men that would come with the non-disclosures. Now I
Right.
did talk with men like that, okay, that had a non-disclosure for particular women. It wasn't a lot of the online stuff going on because more of the wealthier men, they didn't really play those type of games online. But when it came down to like seeing and meeting, that's when the non-disclosure forms would come in, and they would have them sign those.
Yeah.
And they couldn't really blackmail them because of the non-disclosures.
Before I disappear again, and y'all are sounding very clear now, and let Reggie take
Okay.
back over and everything like that. How much
Okay.
did you find that people were involved in the conference world? Because I am involved, and you said you were in media, but I know a lot of people in media and other places will go to conferences, and there's that old saying, it's
Oh,
a saying that comes out of Las Vegas and everything, but it's that kind of notion of what happens in Vegas stays in
they
Vegas and everything like that. So how much did you find out where people were going to conferences and they might get engaged in various extracurricular activities, but they were not all that forthright about it because they had that notion of what I do here is what I'm doing here, and it's I'm only
right.
here like once a year or once every 2 or 3 years or however often it is. But it's kind of that notion of that very popular saying is also in Miami. Whatever happens in Miami stays in Miami, but definitely whatever happens in Vegas stays in Vegas because those are popular conference destinations, just like New York is
Right.
and everything like that.
Right.
So how much did you have where people were engaged in work conferences and were probably having those extracurricular activities in those work conferences, whether it was with coworkers or whether it was with people that were in that city from the same industry, whatever that industry was and everything. But I just wondering how much did that come up in the book, people engaged in that conference, the conference fling, for lack of a better term?
I have a whole chapter on that, actually. I have a whole chapter on that. Because you get your men that have conferences, or you get your men that are athletes, that fly people out. They say the term now, flued out. They got flued out. Have y'all heard that? So I have a whole chapter on that where it's either athletes fly the girls out, or either businessmen, like you said, conferences, or a businessman and a businesswoman meet when they go to that particular conference, like every like you said, maybe every 6 months or every 3 months or even once a year, where they'll get together at that time.
Yeah.
And I remember a couple of men would tell me that if it's like a conference that they were, it was like a frequent conference, and another woman from another city, they would want them to be married as well, so that they felt like the other person had something to lose as well as them. Because if not, you get your person that really doesn't have anything going on, like a woman that doesn't have much going on, waiting for this man. But then you have a woman that's, as in the business, or about her business as well as the other man, and you have them two come together, and he knows that she's going back home to her family life and he's going back home to his family life. He doesn't have to worry. He can just pretty much go back to his normal life. But a woman that they think that a woman that does not have anything to lose is a risk.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm turning it back over to you. If I think of anything else, I'll pop back in. But I know this is all about the Urban Sentinel and what you're all about. So I'm disappearing.
Okay, thank you.
I had a thought. You put a lot of research into this book, didn't you?
I did. I did.
Tell.
I put a lot of thought in it, a lot of research, but I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. So I really thought about the book. Even at the end of each chapter, which is reasons, it's a reason 1, reason 2. I didn't do chapters, I've done reasons. So at the end of each reason, I put my opinion, because I wanted the book to be mainly about why men cheat. So I wanted to ask the men. I didn't want to assume, I didn't want to say what I thought, why what my reasons are, because I'm not a man. I wanted to know what their reasons are, and then I did put my opinion in the at the end of each read, a quote at the end as well, one of my quotes that I put at the end of each reason. So you still have my input, but the topic is the men that I surveyed. It's all about them.
Well,
I'm back again. I had another quick question for you. How often did it happen that the person that was being cheated on found it out at the last incident and everything like that. Because I know maybe you can use this as an example on your next book, since that's going to be why women cheat and everything like that.
Okay.
Because I remember being involved in a relationship with a woman, ironically from Maryland, and everything like that. It was during the time of the Peterson trial, so she was all caught up in the Peterson trial and everything like that. And I went up, and I think my mom even went up to her graduation. But shortly after, and I don't know this for a fact because we never had the conversation afterwards, but shortly after, she got her degree and everything like that, I remember her basically breaking up with me at that time, and then later telling me that she was getting married. So in my mind, I'm thinking that she was probably involved with that guy for a while before she actually decided to break it off with me and then get married, because the time frame was too quick and everything like that. So I'm just wondering, how much did you find out that the people find out that there might have been another person, whether that in this case another woman that was later in the relationship? Because like I said, the timeline, because I am smart enough to do adding and deduction, and I was like, wait a minute, so you're breaking up with me in, and I'm just saying hypothetically because I don't remember the dates, but you're breaking up with me in February, you're getting married in July. That's too fast.
That's quick.
Something's not adding up here.
Yeah, that's really quickly. That's really quick. But yeah, a lot of believe it or not, a lot of women, they did know from what the men are telling me. Some of them were staying because of children. Right. Some of them were staying because of financial stability. And then, so some of the women, from what the men told me, some of the women were like completely just ignoring it. But then you have some women that really did not know about it at all. Right. Okay. But you know, you have some women that will, like I said, ignore. Some women just did not know about it because they were too busy with, you know, young children. They were not really caught up into, you know, what their man was doing like every second of the day. Like some women had like other things that they had, you know, going on. And a lot of them really stayed, even if they knew about it. So
yeah, Miss Boyd,
women and men. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Miss Boyd and Reggie, isn't that one of the oldest reasons that people stay in marriages anyway? Because I know that I mentioned finances, but one of the things I've heard a lot of people say that they stayed in relationships for exactly what you just said, because even if they knew they wanted the kids to be a certain age before they put that pressure on them and everything like that. So I just wanted your take. It does seem like a lot of people stay in relationships knowing that they are bad relationships. I knew a white lady that actually married a brother in her second marriage, and they're still together and have a child. But I know that she stayed in her abusive relationship with her white husband because she was not wanting to put that that kind of like mental pressure on the family and breaking them up and everything. So she stayed in an abusive situation because she didn't want to traumatize. That's the word I was looking for. She didn't want to traumatize the young kids and everything like that.
Oh, wow. Now I do have a chapter in there like that as well, that a woman wants to stay for the children. And it's really, and I put my opinion and everything in there as well, what I think about a situation like that. Yeah. So I put that one in there. But I mean, that's a fine line when you have someone, you know, in a situation that they really don't want to be in, but they try to stay for the children. And that's not really a good thing. I mean, us as, you know, me as a woman, you know, you don't want to break your family up, things like that. I have 2 children with my ex-husband, and we were like high school, you know, sweethearts and everything. But it came to a point where, you know, my children were young when I got my divorce. They were really young, like, let's see, 9 and 3. Oh, wow. Or 3 and 10. Yeah, they were like 3 and 10. They had just turned 3 and 10. So they were really young. They were really, really young at the time. And that was like a big decision that I had to make. But I wanted them to see me happy, and I would have to, you know, I wanted to be able to raise them in a healthy, happy environment, even if it was just me and them.
Yeah.
Good. Now, going, you said your book can be found
Uh-huh.
on Amazon. How many
Yes.
copies have you sold? How many copies have you sold so far?
I haven't looked at it yet, to
Hmm.
be honest, but I know I was the number one um, new hottest new release on Amazon. Okay, so I know I sold a bunch like the first
Hmm.
like couple of weeks. I was there, and then I was on the bestseller list on Kindle. I was number 13, and then number 29 on the paperback.
Hmm.
So I was in top 100.
Okay,
Yeah, so
good.
it's selling pretty good. It's selling really
Hmm.
well.
Hmm.
It's selling
Now,
really well.
for for a listener or viewer who may want to pursue
Hmm.
uh, authoring a book,
Okay.
tell them about the process you went through from getting your manuscript together,
Hmm.
uh, getting it to the publisher, and getting it out on the shelf.
Okay. Okay. Well, first of all, it took a lot of time. It took a lot of time to put it together
Hmm.
and a lot of energy. The manuscript itself, I think I wrote it like, ooh, I have so many rough drafts of the manuscript. And after I had my final manuscript, I read it through and I was like, this is it. Because I know if I kept changing, I would change little bits of stuff and change little bits of the book. But I didn't want to feel like I was picking it apart. It's not a long book. It's it's kind of like it's a shorter book, but it gets to the point. And it has a journal, a journal in the back because I've always journaled. It does say that on the front cover that, it has a journal in the back. It just has it's a different book. I didn't want it to be like the same, just book, chapter book, the beginning, then the end. I wanted it to be different. I have my opinion, at the in each chapter, each reason. And I think that if someone wants to write, they need to make it their own. You need to, make it how you want to make it. And that's what I did. I mean, I wrote it how I wanted to write it. The first publishing company, they wanted me to change a lot of the wording in it. And I understand changing like a couple of things to where it can be sold, at different places. I understand that. So I did go back and change a couple of like words. But as far as the publishing company that I'm with now, I was free to be able to, pretty much do whatever I wanted to when I like that about it. So I think that if someone wants to write a book, do your manuscript. If you want to self-publish, you can definitely self-publish. But with me, I wanted to have someone put it together because I've never written a book before. I
Hmm.
wanted it to be done correctly. So I wanted to go with the publishing company. They read the manuscript. They can either say yes to the manuscript or they can say no to the manuscript, or they can, say you need to change this and, change that. And then you kind of have to go back to the drawing board, which I didn't have to do with this publishing company. And they really liked the manuscript, and I was able to just, put it together. They did, ask me about the cover and how I wanted the cover to look. I put, how you can dedicate books. I had the dedication pages. I did them how I wanted to do them instead of just, maybe 2 or 3 lines of dedication. Had a special dedication to my grandmother because she was special to me. And today is her birthday. She passed away in 2011, but today is her birthday. And I did a special dedication page in the book to her.
So what I can hear from you is that artistic freedom is very important.
It is. It's very important to me because I'm me. I don't try to be like anybody else. I don't try to be like, whatever's going on, on social media. I'm a real person. And I think that definitely live by. Everyone should be true to themselves, and that's me. I like the, free creativity with my book, and that would be I have a lot of books in me, so I know I'll be writing because I love to write. So I just want it to be authentic.
Now, Lashika,
Hmm.
have you thought about putting your book into a
Uh-huh.
movie? Have you thought about putting the book into a movie?
Yeah, I have thought about putting it into like a series because of
Hmm.
the 20 different reasons. I had thought about a series, a movie, a Tubi movie. Yeah, I would love to have it in a series or a movie. I think it would do great.
Hmm. Yeah, 'cause I was thinking, if you did it from the standpoint of reason number one, next week could be reason number
Hmm.
two, or reason number
Yeah.
three. Because you could do a movie that
Hmm.
same way too. But I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. And these days I think I mean it's always a hot topic.
Hmm.
so so I think that, a lot of people could learn from it.
Hmm.
Men and women. I mean
Right.
it's a conversational piece. It's a
Hmm.
conversational piece.
Hmm.
I was
Yeah.
Hmm.
just going to add to that because I think I mentioned it to Reggie before and everything, but me and one of the owners
Uh-huh.
of the network just came from a conference in Miami, and it was a conference with podcasters, but also some of the networks like Roku and Amazon and YouTube was there. But there were people pitching series, and a lot of the series were family type series, so like web series and stuff like that. So
Okay.
something similar
Okay.
to what Reggie was describing, because I remember there was one that I think was done by some young ladies and some they had to put together a team, but it was around a family, and I think they had some what do you call them LGBTQ issues within it and everything. But they were pitching
Okay.
their series, and it was like a family-oriented type series and everything like that. So I did see that they were very popular. Those type of series that are web series that are
Hmm.
serial motivated, almost like soap operas and everything like that. So something like this, I
Okay.
could see being lended into that environment and being able to be sold to like a Tubi or some of the other networks that have series, Binge, and some of the other ones. We've even been
Okay.
thinking about doing some series here on Pod TV. We had one that was like a development series where they were pitching ideas and showing the creation of the pitch as it was created. It was called Talking Upstream, and I think they did it for about a year and a half, and they may still be out there. They're just not with us right now. I might reach out to them and get them back
Okay.
onto the network. But it's something that is doable and is very popular. This notion of web series, so you should give it some strong consideration and everything like that. And all
Okay.
in all, hey
Oh
Reggie,
yeah,
just really
definitely.
yeah, that sounds like that would be a great series. You mentioned being a divorcee and everything like that. I guess the other question I was curious about
Mhm.
was how much did those kind of issues play into the reasons that people cheated and everything? Because I know that I've got a very dear
Uh-huh.
friend that is sometimes finding that it is hard for her to maintain a relationship because she's got a lot of baggage that comes into the relationship. So I'm thinking that because of that, that sometimes
Uh-huh.
people get pushed into cheating and everything like that. Because this friend of mine has probably got not just kids, but grandkids as well, because she's younger than me. She's in her early 50s. I think she turned 50 like a year or two, but she's got like
Okay.
4 kids and 6 grandkids, or maybe even be up to 7 or 8. So I'm thinking that because of that, it's harder for her to
Mhm.
maintain a relationship, and that might push her, and I'm just using her as a hypothetical, into those bad kind of situations where there are multiple partners and everything like that. But I'm just wondering how much is that played into the book, and did you
R-
find people's family
Right.
dynamic was part of the reason for the cheating? Miss
I think
Boyd,
we
she's
might have lost her a little bit
Right.
there.
Now I think that can you
we can hear you a
repeat
little bit now. Try to, yeah.
the last part? I'm sorry, I had cut out.
No problem. I was just asking how much does family dynamics and people's individual family dynamics, where they are having multiple family members, playing into the cheating and the reason that people are cheating, whether that's a man or a woman.
Let's see. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Yes. Yes, we hear you.
I think she froze again.
Yeah, she looks like she froze again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, she's kind of, like we
Mr.
were just
Lee.
talking. Can you hear us?
I don't know if she hears us or not. But she was doing real good there for a while.
But
What is your thoughts around that? Well, but you might have to go out and in again one more time.
well, I think person's life can really affect their relationships. What they're going
Okay.
through. But you got to remember too, a person, it, you know, in your girl, in your friend's situation, would a man be able to adapt to everything she's going through?
Right, that's what I'm saying. Because
That's
sometimes that creates a person's dynamic that is hard to deal
yeah,
with and everything. So then that makes it harder to even maintain a relationship, much less
yeah.
be in a cheated relationship.
Because the person might really care for you, but you got so much stuff going on with you, they say it's not even worth, sticking around for.
Right,
They find themselves headed out the door.
right.
You
And
know,
sometimes
they,
that's hitting at the door with a new relationship, a cheating
yeah,
relationship, and sometimes that's hitting at the door in other kind of ways as well. Because
that's
the
right.
other thing is, and I see she's trying to come back in, but the other thing I was curious about, and I see, I'll see if I can get her back in, is how much did the conversation of the support for cheating from the institutions come in as well? Because as you know, I work at a cultural arts center, but the cultural arts center used to have a church and everything like that, a major church, a major Presbyterian church that was in there, and sometimes the ministers would I won't say they would encourage cheating, but they were kind of like you were saying earlier, Miss Boyd, they would encourage not breaking up because of the way that religion looks at breakup and everything like that. So how much did the institutions play a role in enabling the cheater, for lack of a better term? I don't know if she can hear me.
She's still frozen.
She frozen. What's your thoughts around that, Reggie? Because sometimes the institutions will enable the cheater, and they were
Yeah, well, there's so much around. Churches, talking about, this is what God wants and all this kind of stuff, and they really push the people to buy into that and to believe that. And man, you can look back over our parents' lives and
Mhm.
their parents' lives. They were encouraged to stay in a situation
Okay.
regardless of what that situation was like. Regardless who, what was going on. They were encouraged to stay right there and not leave.
Right.
You know, and the whole community, during that time, living in an all black community, the whole community knew what you were doing.
Hmm.
So um,
Okay.
the
I'm
people,
sorry. I don't know what happened. I got cut out.
Yeah, but we hear you now. I was asking about the notion
Can you
of
hear me?
churches. Yeah, we hear you. Yes. Yes, we hear you.
Okay.
So I was asking about
Okay.
the
Okay. And you were
institutions
asking about what
enabling
now?
cheaters. I was asking about the institutions enabling cheaters. So like sometimes the churches will know that the cheating is going on and they won't necessarily do anything to the cheaters or try to do
Mm.
any kind of counseling. So does that come up in this book, the notion of institutions, whether it's the church or the schools or, no, or other institutions enabling the cheaters and not necessarily trying to intervene?
Yes, it did come up. It a lot of the I have a chapter on that as well, like men of clergy. It's a lot of stuff that comes on, like counseling, therapists, things like that. I have a chapter in there as well about that. That one was a little hard for me to get. When I surveyed someone about it, because it's a very touchy subject with them being, involved in the church and things like that. But they are, it was a mistake that they did make. And I do put all of that in that chapter of kind of, what happened and things like that. But yeah, that was a very touchy subject, but it did happen, and it does happen.
But I think a lot of people are moving away from marriage now. I think for a lot of
Oh
people,
yeah.
marriage
Mhm.
isn't as important as it once was. I think on Erica
I
Campbell.
see that.
Yeah, I was listening to Erica
Mhm.
Campbell's show this morning. Yeah, I think it
Uh-huh.
was her, and she was talking about somehow they got on that subject, about marriage, and this one
Right.
guy said him and his partner, they've been together for 35 years, never gotten
Okay.
married,
Okay.
house together,
Really?
property together, bank accounts together, everything
Okay.
together, just like they were married, but they never saw a need to
Wow.
get married.
No, and I've had family members that have done that, Reggie. I think I told you
Yeah,
my dad and his longtime love, because my
Really?
parents are divorced, have been together for a number of years. They actually have separate houses and everything like that. But I was
O
just wondering, and this is from Miss Boyd, in your research
Mhm.
and everything, if you are,
Okay.
because cheating is usually associated with marriage, and a lot of people are delaying marriage, like Reggie is saying, because they want to have their professional career, they want to have other things like that. So, can you really? How much cheating can there be if there isn't a institution that you're cheating from? So is there a lot of quote unquote single cheating? Because if you're single and you're with another person, aren't you really just doing
Mhm.
the dating thing, which is what the whole, I think the Bible even says, or not the Bible, but definitely religious groups talk about
Right.
shop around and everything like that. There's a number of songs about
Uh-huh.
shop around that were very popular in the 60s and the 70s and things along those lines. So usually cheating is associated with marriage. So if people are
Right.
delaying marriage,
Mhm.
does that mean that cheating is going down? Because if you're in a relationship and then you're in a secondary relationship, is that actually cheating? And what
Right.
did you find out that people defined it if it was still cheating if you're not really in a marriage relationship or a permanent relationship?
Okay. Okay, I see. Now, as far as the permanent relationship goes, I would ask them, now, are y'all monogamous? Or
Right.
does she think you guys are monogamous? And did you tell her that, look, it's just me and you?
Right.
So a lot of the people that were not married, but that were in relationships, they, were living together. So the
Mhm.
living together situation and not being married, they were considered in a monogamous relationship, but the man was still cheating. Okay, so the woman, and in a lot of this, like I have a chapter where it was one-sided, like the man would say, okay, we're in a relationship. I want you to do this, this, and this at home, but I'm going to be able to do this, and this outside of the home or whatever I wanted to do. Believe it or not, it was men that were doing that. They wanted their woman to be at home, not cheating, doing right by them, but they would be out cheating and doing other things. Okay, so regardless, they were not married, but they were still in a relationship and wanted monogamy from their partner's side, but they were not able to, they were not given it.
Yeah. As you were saying that, I'm thinking about
So,
two
I
things.
mean,
One, I'm
as far
thinking,
as dating,
no, I'm saying that you were saying that. I
uh-huh,
was thinking of two things. I was thinking of a popular song that came out, I think, 2 years ago,
uh-huh.
which was Beyonce's "Put a Ring on It" and everything like that. But I'm also
Okay.
thinking about a famous saying,
Oh,
and Reggie knows where I'm probably going with this. But there is a saying that was out there for a while, and I might be butchering
okay.
the saying, but it was kind of like, "Why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free?" and everything like that. So a lot of people are probably having
Right.
that
I mean,
mentality
yeah.
of
Yeah.
why buy the cow if I can get the milk for
Yeah.
free and everything, because they're not going to get themselves in
e-
the relationship, in a committed relationship and everything like that. Just really
Right.
quickly, did you touch on the swinger society? Because there's definitely a growing swinger society out there as well, and
Hmm.
they are definitely not thinking about cheating. But then when I've talked to people in that space, they say that even in the swinging society, you're putting your heart out there, so the people need to be aware
Right.
of what they're getting into, and even if they are multiple partners, everybody has got their heart invested in it to some degree.
Hmm.
If I can go spiritual, their soul invested as well. So there's like this notion
Right.
that you can't really just I'll just put it bluntly, have sex without giving a bit of yourself to the person and everything like that. So I was wondering
Exactly.
if that came up
Exactly.
in the
Hmm.
book as well, because even, and I've talked to a few, not a lot, but I've talked to some people in that
Okay.
culture, and even they have said that they knew that they were giving part of their heart to the multiple people, even if they
Hmm.
had multiple partners.
Wow. Now, as far as the swingers go, I did not interview anybody that was a part of that, but I did interview someone that wanted to add someone to the bedroom. I did interview someone like that. They wanted to, but the guys that I interviewed that wanted that, their partners didn't want the same thing.
Right.
So it was just different. So they would just go out and still do whatever they were doing, which was cheating.
Yeah. I mean, isn't that two of the oldest fantasies? And this is for both you and Reggie. Two of the oldest fantasies that I've heard is that many men say that they want a threesome, whether they actually want it or not. And then many people say that they want to, which I really think is funny, because if you're in that lifestyle, then you're in that lifestyle. But I've heard many people say that the only reason that the person is a lesbian is because they haven't and I'll just say D to let folks know what I'm trying to go to without saying the word and everything, because they haven't met the right one to get them off of it and everything like that. Right. You hear people, they'll say that. They'll be like, they just haven't met the right one, but they really don't want to be lesbians. That's what they claim and everything. Yeah,
that's what I've heard that a lot too. And it's just like those men, they just want what they want. And regardless if their women want it or not, they're just going to get it regardless if the women want it or not. And the ones that I've interviewed anyway.
Yep. Okay. Well, look, we've come to the end of our show.
Okay.
It's been a very interesting show, and I want the viewers and listeners to go to Amazon and Kindle and purchase 20. What's the name of the book again?
It's Top 20 Reasons
Why Men Cheat. Yes, please support my associate editor and Miss Lashika Boyd in purchasing that book. And
who's the model in the book? Is that you, Miss Boyd, or is that somebody else? Because there's a model with the person sitting there putting their hand like they're wondering the reason and everything. So who is the model on the book? Is that you, Miss Boyd?
It's her.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, it's her. So I want everybody to go out. We need to support our Black entrepreneurs.
Thank you, Reggie.
Regardless of what field they're in, please go out and support her. You can go to Amazon or Kindle and purchase the book. And how much is the book at this time, Lashika? How much is your book at this time? I don't think she can hear us, but it's not very expensive.
Can you hear me? It seems like I was cutting out a little bit again.
Oh, yeah. How much is your book at this time? How much? Hey, how much is your book? I don't think she can hear us, but go support Miss Boyd.
Yeah, I was saying she can put it in chat because we definitely.
Sorry, it was cutting out. What did you say? I'm sorry.
How much is your book?
Okay, can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, on the Kindle version, which you download immediately, is $9.99, and then the paperback is $15.99. I know a lot of people like paperbacks. I've been seeing that, but that was $15.99 on Amazon, and it's Top 20 Reasons Why Men Cheat.
Okay, so please go and support
us. C. Boyd.
Yes, $9.99 Kindle, $15.99 paperback. A good bargain. Get some good information. And just because you get information, men, don't go out and use it, okay? Yes. It's for informational purposes only, okay?
Informational purposes only. Please don't try to use it and nothing like that. And as the people in the spoken word community say, when they find out a book is $9.99 or less than $10 and everything, they will use the chant only $9.99. So that's actually a good discount. And only $9.99 is
it's a great discount.
Like that.
Yeah.
So look, thank you everyone for watching the Urban Sentinel live show tonight. Thank you, Miss Boyd, for being with us. Thank you, Mark. Until next week, everybody have a good week and be safe. Take care now.
Peace.
Okay, thank you guys. Nice to meet you.